Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are you all doing today? I hope you had a nice weekend. Okay, so the paper that we're going to do today is special because it contains all the challenging questions from 2017. So, अभी हमने 4 साल के papers कर लिए हैं. We have done 2021, 2020, 2019, and 2018. And now I think it's time that we delve on to more difficult topics, more difficult questions that are going to decide whether you're going to get an A or an A star. And that part is super important. I saw that most of you are doing really, really well on MCQs, and I've actually seen an improvement. And that's a good thing. It makes me happy. And of course, it should make you happy as well. So yeah, that's a reason to celebrate. And that is why I'm going to take this up a notch. And this is a paper that I did with my high achievers class. That's a class that I have separately for people who are targeting just A stars or the very high percentage. So I'm going to use that in this class, and let's see how we fare with those. All right. So here we have it. This is the 5th MCQ paper that we have in this password session. And yeah, let's start. So I would like you to attempt it. Think of your answer, write it down somewhere or put it in the chat, and then I will explain it. And this is a really short test because we just have 20 questions. Okay, what's your answer to the first one? सबने सोच लिया आंसर? If you have, then let's solve this. Okay, so if you're doing a D, then you are part of the people who were actually tricked by the examiner in this question. Because the key difference between C and D, by the way, the answer is C. The key difference in this is that when this is colorless, then B goes out, right? B nahi ho sakta because B is, what's the color of B? Chlorine ka kya color hota hai? Feel free to unmute yourselves and answer it. Feel free to. Yeah, what's the color of chlorine? Seriously? एक महीने बाद पेपर है तुम लोगों का? The color of chlorine is yellow, green, or just green. Both of them are acceptable. So this is not colorless, so that goes out. No effect on either red or blue litmus paper. That also rules out ammonia as well as chlorine. Reason: ammonia is alkaline, so it should turn red litmus blue. And chlorine is bleaching agent, which means it should bleach both red and blue litmus papers. दोनों को उसको bleach कर देना चाहिए, white कर देना चाहिए. So not only is chlorine acidic, it's also bleaching agent, which means now A and B can't be there. No effect on lime water. That means carbon dioxide nahi ho. Carbon dioxide nahi ho sakti. It can be any other thing except carbon dioxide. But carbon dioxide is not even an option. So this is basically wasting our time. So now the last option is flammable, and we have 2 answers. Which of these goes? That depends on, do you understand that oxygen is not flammable? Oxygen helps a flame. Okay? So if there is a flame, oxygen will help it. But hydrogen itself is flammable. What are flammable things? Things that can burn themselves. So burning kya hoti hai? When something reacts with oxygen to produce something else. When you have a fuel, that fuel reacts with something and it makes the product, whatever the product is. And because hydrogen can react with oxygen to produce water, that clearly is a fuel. But oxygen won't react with itself to burn. Hawa mein oxygen hoti hai, it doesn't burn on its own. Like you need a fuel to do that, which is why the answer is going to be C. People who have joined us now, this paper comprises of all the questions that students in 2017 found very, very challenging. A majority did wrong. So these are all trick questions, and we're going to solve them. Okay. Go on, think of your answer. If you want, you can send it to me, and then I'll explain. Okay, so I've gotten a few answers. Let's see. So fossil fuels are used to power some internal combustion engine. Which pollutants are produced by internal combustion engine burning fossil fuels? So when you're burning fossil fuels, what do you get? Obviously, it depends on what is in the fuel, right? So carbon, yeah, carbon monoxide can be produced from the fuel because fuel has carbon in it. Hydrocarbons make up majority of the fuel. And nitrogen monoxide or nitrogen dioxide. What does that mean? Is that produced in the internal combustion engine? Of course it is. Of course it is produced in internal combustion engine. Now, does that mean that it is a pollutant produced by internal combustion engine producing fossil fuel? है कि नहीं है? Of course, it is not in the fuel, it's not coming from the fuel, but it is still produced in the internal combustion engine. But nitrogen and oxygen are, of course, coming from the air, not the fuel themselves. Sulfur dioxide. Now, that is the deciding factor. Sulfur is an impurity in diesel, in petrol, these fossil fuels that we have, which means sulfur can burn and produce sulfur dioxide, and which is the reason 1, 2, and 3. All of these are going to be the fossil fuels pollutants. Correct? Suppose someone add. If you don't understand, ask. Don't wait. Okay, which substance has a giant covalent structure and contains atoms of more than one element? Now, what kind of a substance contains atoms of more than one element? What kind of a substance does that? हम उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Element, compound, mixture, क्या बोलते हैं उसको?
Compound.
Compound or mixture. दोनों हो सकते हैं if it just has to have more than one element. But of course, if it gets a giant covalent structure, then that's a compound. So giant structure किसका है? इसका है, इसका है, इसका है. But this is carbon, pure carbon, pure carbon. Of course, molecular structure methane doesn't qualify. And then that sand, because SiO2, atoms of 2 elements. Now sand is the answer. Okay. Now here's the thing. Notice the word contains. That basically tells me that sand itself is a mixture which has SiO2 in it. So don't assume that SiO2 is sand is a compound or sand is SiO2. Sand has SiO2 in it. Sand is a mixture, okay? All right. Go on, attempt the next question. Take a minute. Done? Tell me what your answers are. Yeah, I've gotten 7 answers. That's good. Let's see. Dilute sulfuric acid is electrolyzed between inert electrodes. So inert electrodes means not reactive. Okay. Next, which statements are correct? In inert electrodes में क्या होगा? The first rule of electrolysis won't apply. What was the first rule? First rule was a reactive anode ionizes. वो तो है नहीं यहाँ पे, so that won't happen. Now the second rule applies. What was the second rule? किसी को याद है? Less reactive ions discharge except concentrated halogen. Okay, that's the idea. Now let's do it. Dilute sulfuric acid electrolyzed. यहाँ पे obviously halogen तो है नहीं, so second rule directly apply on it. Let me write the ions. Hydrogen ion from acid, sulfate ion from acid, hydrogen ion from water, दोबारा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, and hydroxide ion from water. Now judging by this, I will get H positive released at the cathode and OH negative released at the anode, which will obviously show itself as oxygen gas at the anode. So this goes to the positive electrode, this goes to the negative electrode. Okay, hydrogen is released at the negative electrode. True. Oxygen is released at the positive. True. Sulfur dioxide is released at the positive electrode. Nope, because you are not discharging SO4. It could produce sulfur dioxide, but वो discharge होगा तो बनाएगा ना, so it's not going to do that. Acid becomes more concentrated. Why does that happen? Does anybody know why does that happen? Why does it become more concentrated? The statement is true, by the way.
So because of the H plus ions.
But concentration has to deal with the volume of the solution. Does this mean volume of the solution is going down? Yes, Omar, you're absolutely right. Water gets used up because notice that H and OH are both coming from water as well. H is coming from acid, but H and OH are both coming from water, which means it is the water that is breaking down. ये electrolysis technically पानी का हो रहा है. Acid तो बस पड़ा है, which means it's the water that's breaking down, forming hydrogen and oxygen. So water तो कम होता जा रहा है, which means now you have more sulfuric acid in the same solution with solution में पानी कम हो गया, so concentration ज़्यादा होगी, and that's why the answer is A. Okay, so far we are doing really well. Question number 5, attempted. Yeah, I have gotten a few answers. Let's see. For the reverse reaction, so the important bit over here is that you have to draw the reverse reaction. So what I'll do is I'll simply copy this one. So reverse में ये ऐसा हो जाएगा. Okay. And now which row character shows the sign of activation energy? Now for the reverse one, this is my activation energy. Activation energy is always from the beginning to the top. And my delta H is always from the beginning to the end. Remember this. Activation energy is beginning to top and enthalpy is beginning to end. So this is what I'll get here, delta H, and this is EA. So judging by this, my answers are activation energy is positive. Activation energy is always endothermic. You always need to supply energy to break the bonds. That's what endothermic is. And that's what activation energy is. And delta H over there, it is going to be exothermic, which means my answer is going to be D. So the trick part here was that you should be able to manipulate the equation or the graph for the reverse part. और reverse part का graph आपने देखना है, forward का नहीं देखना है, reverse का देखना है, which means that's the first thing you should focus on. Draw the graph yourself so that you know. And again, I'll remind you, you own that piece of paper on which they'll give you that question mark. आपने उसके पैसे भरने हैं, आपने एग्जाम रूम में जाना है, तो वो पेपर आपका है. एग्जामिनर ने उसको देखना भी नहीं है. एग्जामिनर इनफैक्ट they are only going to check your bubble sheet. So वो जो paper है ना वो आपका है, which means you can write on it as much as you want. So doodling करनी है तो कर लेना if you have that time. But ये चीजें draw करें, underline करें, highlight करें, आपको पता लगे कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ या क्या कर रही हूँ. All right. Which two substances are removed from the bottom of blast furnace? बहुत आसान है. This is your things that you need to memorize. ठीक है? And if you need some revision for that, तो वो YouTube पे I've uploaded a video of things you can memorize. You should memorize for O levels and IGCSE. So go watch that video if you need to revise these things. So go on, solve this one. Okay, so I've gotten a few answers. Now, blast furnace, what do you add into that thing at the top? So from the top, you're going to add carbon, you're going to add calcium carbonate, limestone, you're going to add iron oxide. These are the three raw material you need for this. And from the bottom, you're going to push hot air in so that you get oxygen which reacts with carbon and which oxidizes carbon. Why? Because carbon will then form carbon dioxide, then form carbon monoxide, which will reduce iron oxide and give us pure iron. So pure iron जो बनेगी वो यहाँ नीचे आ जाएगी. And then we will also get another thing which is called slag, CaSiO3. और ये क्या होती है? This is basically salt that you get when calcium carbonate neutralizes silicon dioxide. So calcium carbonate neutralizes silicon dioxide. अब वो कैसे करता है? By releasing carbon dioxide और ये salt बन जाता है हमारे पास. And this is how most carbonates react. They release carbon dioxide and the remaining basic part reacts with the acidic part, which is SaO2. Okay, so that's what we get. So this thing is called slag. So you are going to get slag out, you're going to get iron out. So this is the idea of what happens in a blast furnace. So judging by this, we're going to get slag out, we are going to get iron out. Okay, so 2 and D. Good, good. Okay, next question. Go on to it. Good, good. We have gotten 4 answers. Okay, let's do it. NH2 is produced by reacting together carboxylic acid. इस acid का नाम आता है किसी को? What is this acid called? Methanoic acid. Very good, Umar. So this is methanoic because you have 1 carbon. And the alcohol, this one. What is this alcohol called? Arham, do you know it?
Sir, propanol.
Very good, propanol. And yeah, a better answer would be prop-1ol. Very good, Rabia. Yeah. So this is propanol and methanoic acid. And I've told you the alcohol gives the branch, which means it's going to be propyl. Alcohol gives the branch. Why do I call it branch? Because it's attached to the oxygen. Okay? Carbon के साथ नहीं attached. इधर alcohol वाला part आएगा और इधर acid वाला part आएगा. Okay? So now the acid is just one carbon, so it's going to be methanoate. And alcohol is going to be giving us three, so propyl methanoate. So that means it's either this or this. Now let's look at the formula. Propyl, the three carbon part, should be with oxygen, which is over here. So judging by this, the answer is again D. Okay, do it. ये आज सुबह वाली जो हमारी क्लास थी ना आफ्टर सेली, ये उसमें हमने इसको किया था. If you want to watch the recording, it's available on the YouTube. So I've gotten a few answers. People who gave me different answers, if I told you the answer is A, can you figure out why A is your answer? So the answer is A because yes, Homer is right. That same elements or same atoms joined with carbon. So if you look at these carbons, we know that you make polymers by the RCJ method and we have removed double bond. So we'll add a double bond. ये तो हम सबको पता है. But then we have to look at that this carbon, the carbon on the right is attached to chloride and bromide, which means you cannot pick an answer in which carbon is attached to something else. The carbon on one side should be attached to chlorine and bromine. कोई और चीज नहीं हो सकती है. Okay? And the other carbon should be attached to a methyl and then hydrogen. And yeah, that's why A is the answer. स्वैप नहीं कर सकते आप डिफरेंट एटम्स को आपस में. ये नहीं हो सकता कि ये ब्रोमीन उठ के इधर आ जाए या क्लोरीन उठ के. दैट कांट हैपन. ओके, सो या देयर यू गो. Okay, this one's easy. Try it. Done. 4 answers. Interesting. Okay, let's do it. Which statement about sulfur and its compounds are correct? Sulfur is in group 6 and has 6 outer shell electrons. Yeah, it is in group 6, so 6 ही होने चाहिए. Right? Why would it have anything else? Okay. In hydrogen sulfide, sulfur shares 1 electron with each hydrogen atom. So let's just make hydrogen sulfide. Okay. So hydrogen sulfide, if you make that, then that gives me what? H2S is this, right? That's what it is. And yeah, hydrogen can only share 1 electron. And sulfur dioxide is used as bleach. Is that correct? Do you think that's right? It is right. Sulfur dioxide is bleach. Where do we use it? What industry makes use of sulfur dioxide as a bleach? Paper industry. Okay, that's the one. So what industry uses it is paper industry because it needs to bleach wood pulp. And based on that, our answer is A. So अब हमारे syllabus में 2 bleaching होगी. One is sulfur dioxide and one is chlorine. All right, number 10. Go on, do it. Why doesn't paper industry use chlorine? Because chlorine is poisonous as well. Sulfur dioxide is also toxic, but it's easier to handle. Chlorine can be very dangerous to handle, which is why we prefer sulfur dioxide over chlorine. Also, it's cheaper to manufacture. Now, I've told you before that if they give you numbers for both the reactants, you have to find the limiting reactant. So if you know, sorry about that, if you know the numbers for both reactants, you will find the limiting reagent. So over here, I have silver nitrate, number of moles is concentration times volume, right? So N equal to CV. So 50 over 1000 into 0.1. So what is that? 0.005, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And this one, N equal to CV again. For this one, it's going to be 150 over 1000 into 0.05. I'll use a calculator for this. So that is 0.0075. So clearly, silver nitrate is the limiting reagent because this is present in less amount. Okay. So that is the one that's going to decide how much product is made. So what is left over at the end? You're going to be left over with sodium chloride, but also you're going to get some products. You're going to react them, silver nitrate plus NaCl. Precipitation reaction, right? 2 soluble salts reacting to make precipitate, silver chloride and sodium nitrate. So at the end, what are we going to get? अब वो कह रहे as well as solid silver chloride. उसने बता दिया that solid silver chloride, the precipitate is already there. What is present in the beaker after this? What is left over? Sodium chloride. Yes. And do you make sodium nitrate? Of course. That's also made. So because of this, our answer is going to be B. Okay. So we're going to get 3 things. Silver chloride, which was made in the reaction, sodium nitrate, which was made in the reaction, and sodium chloride, which was extra, which was in excess. So जो भी left over होगा, वो वहां पर हमें मिला होगा. उसके अंदर obviously it will be present. All right. Question 11, go on. Attempt it. Done? So let's do it. Answer nahi I don't know. I think everybody's struggling with it for some reason. Okay, nitrogen monoxide and oxygen react to form nitrogen dioxide. Okay, what is the maximum volume of nitrogen dioxide that could be obtained when 1 dm³ of nitrogen monoxide reacts with 2 of oxygen? Again, I've told you, whenever they give us information about both reactants, you find limiting agent. So यहाँ पर हमें दोनों की volume बता दी है. That means we have to find the limiting agent. How do you do that? You look at the mole ratios and figure out how much you have and how much you need. So for example, I have 2 NO which needs 1 oxygen. So if I have 1 NO, how much of oxygen will I need? Notice that I'm not using this value. I'm going to use it to compare later on. So X comes out to be half. I need half a mole or half a dm³ of oxygen. How much do I have? 2. So using Avogadro's law, I can say that number of moles is comparable or in the same ratio as volume. Remember, gas volume ratio is same as number of moles ratio. The ratio of moles is same as ratio of volume. That's Avogadro's law. So यहाँ पर जो मेरे पास 1 dm³, I can take that as a comparable factor, which means 2 needs 1, so 1 will need half. I have way more than what I need. I have 2 dm³ of it, but limiting reactant is NO because that's the one that's going to run out. वो half के साथ react करेगा, खत्म हो जाएगा. I will still have 1.5 dm³ of oxygen left, but no nitrogen monoxide. So let's see. If I have 2 of nitrogen monoxide, I get 2 of nitrogen dioxide. So if I have 1, I will get 1. And yep, there you go. A is my answer. Okay, A is my answer. All right. This one's easy. Go and do it. Okay, I'll explain again. What part do you not understand? So first thing in this question that we have to know is that whenever we are given the mole ratio or volume ratio, we can compare them for gases. Second, whenever we have information of both reactants, we find the limiting agent. So in this case, I know that I have 1 of this and 2 of this. So I will first find the limiting agent. How do we do that? So I have 2 of NO, I will need 1 of oxygen. Okay. So if I have 2 of oxygen, how much NO do I need? X. Let me cross multiply. So X comes out to be 4, which means to completely react with 2 dm³ of oxygen, I need 4 dm³ of NO. I don't have it, which means nitrogen monoxide is the limiting agent. So there are 2 ways of figuring that. One that I explained earlier, one that we have right here. So I need 4 moles of or 4 dm³ of NO to completely react with 2 dm³ of oxygen. And here I have just 1. So it is the limiting agent. So now I'll ignore the other thing. Whatever is in excess, you ignore it. So I have 1 dm³ of NO, that's limiting agent. Oxygen is in excess, I'm going to ignore it. Now, if I have 2 of this, it will produce 2 of this. So if I have 1 of this, it will produce 1 of this. That's it, mole ratio. And that's how I know the answer is A. I hope you understand this now. Okay. Do it yourself. This one is actually really easy. The one similar to the one we did. Okay, so let's see. First step, we should draw the reverse reaction because that's what they've asked us. So I'll draw the reverse reaction. Okay. And now I can see activation energy goes up and exothermic reaction, delta H goes down. This is activation energy, that's delta H. So activation energy is positive, delta H is negative, which means it is positive and exothermic, and so the answer is D. Good, Umar, good, Rafi. Arkham, yeah. Okay, moving on. All right, attempt this one. Now, this comes from the basic idea of ectothermic and exothermic reactions. और हमने कई दफा क्वेश्चंस में इसको डील किया whenever we studied this chapter. All right, let's see. Now, before we do this reaction, what you have to remember is that bond breaking is endothermic and bond making is exothermic. That's the fundamental idea in this chapter. Bond breaking is endothermic, bond making is exothermic. So let's see. In one, you're breaking bonds. Hydrogen molecule broke down, giving us hydrogen atoms. Oxygen molecule broke down, giving us oxygen atoms. So this is endothermic, positive delta H. Second one is exothermic. Why? Because you're making bonds. 4 hydrogen atoms, 2 oxygen atoms, or moles of those react to make 2 oxygen water molecules, or moles of that. This is exothermic. Bonds are made, no bonds broken. Negative. And lastly, you have gas which has more energy than a liquid. So the gas becomes a liquid by losing energy. So this is also exothermic. So yeah, negative, negative 2 and 3. C. See, it was a trick question because we might assume that, oh, steam changing to liquid water is not a reaction, so why even consider it? But it's still a process. And they did not say which stages would be exothermic reaction. They just said which are exothermic, that's it. So exothermic to वही है ना जो energy release करता है, which makes it 2 and 3. Okay. This one I'm going to give you 2 minutes for it. Okay, so I've gotten a few answers. Let's see. In 4 separate experiments, 1, 2, 3, and 4, nitric acid was added to excess marble chips, which means nitric acid is a limiting agent, and volume of carbon dioxide was formed. Performed was measured. Okay. In all 4 experiments, same volume was used. Volume change नहीं हो रही है, but अगर volume change नहीं हो रही है और carbon dioxide कभी 100 है, कभी 200 है, that means concentration change हो रही है. And yeah, that's what it says. It's concentration or temperature, both were changed. Okay, results are shown. Okay, let's see. Clearly, the ones that are producing 200, both of them together have the same concentration. And both of these have the same concentration because concentration is the only factor that changes the value on y-axis. It also changes time, लेकिन वो तो सब करते हैं. This one is the factor that changes both the values, y की भी x की. Time भी कम लगेगा, amount भी ज़्यादा बनेगी if you have higher concentration. Okay. Second, temperature. Higher temperature implies that you are going to use less time. The line is going to become flatter first, which means एक तो हमारा ये 3 high temperature पे और एक 1 high temperature पे. So 1 and 3 are at higher temperature, and 1 and 2 they have more concentration than 3 and 4. So let's see. A lower concentration of acid was used in experiment 3 than in experiment 1. लो बात ही ठीक हो गई. सामने ही नजर आ गया. Okay. So C, the concentration of first is higher. That's why it's producing more volume. So this one is correct. No, wait a minute. Yeah, no, this is right. 3 has lower concentration, but let's still consider the others. Experiment 4 was faster than experiment 3. No, it took more time to become flat, so 4 is slower. Acid used in experiment 2 was lower concentration than experiment 1. Let's see. 2 and 1 both are giving us the same volume, which means both of them have the same concentration. And lastly, temperature was the same in experiment 1 and 2. No, 1 is faster, which means if they both have the same concentration, 1 is faster because it has more temperature. All right, here you go. Do this question. Done? Let's see. Metals have a structure of positive ion and a sea of electron. We know that. Metals are malleable because it is possible to force the ions to slide over each other. We also know that. The alloy brass is malleable than pure copper and than pure zinc. Now, pure metals have same sized atoms or cations. And alloys, which are impure metals, they have differently sized cations, which means they will find it difficult to slide over each other. So yeah, alloys are less malleable. They are more rigid, which is the reason, one of the reasons why we make alloys. So yeah, this is less malleable than pure copper. Okay. And brass is dash to conduct electricity. Brass is able to conduct electricity because at the heart of it, it is still a mixture of metals, which means it still has metallic bonding. So yeah, it is able to conduct electricity, and the answer is B. All right, so good work, Waleed and Erkan. And this is the last question for now. Which polymer contains only 3 different elements? Okay, what's your answer? Okay, so I've gotten an answer A, one answer C, one answer D. Achha, all over the place. Let's see. First of all, the addition polymers are made by breaking the double bond, right? And propene and ethene, they're both hydrocarbons. तो जब double bond टूटेगी तब भी hydrocarbons ही रहेंगे. तीसरा तो कुछ हो नहीं सकता. So it can't be B or C because it's still going to be hydrogen and carbon only. Now, protein has amide linkage. That is CONH. 4 elements सही होंगे. And starch has ester linkage, which is COO. So carbon and oxygen तो है, और hydrogen तो होता ही है. So that's why starch is our answer. Very good, Arun. All right. And yeah, that is the end of this paper. I will be giving you another paper similar to this one, so you can practice. Yes, somebody had a question.
Sir, I just want to ask you that please send this in the group.
The paper?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Protein has amide linkage or peptide linkage, and that is CONH. So protein has carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen. 4 elements, not 3. That's why protein answer news. All right. So I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, with the theory questions. Take care. I'm going to.
I have a question. That this is from another MCQ, that there are solid carbonates of lead, magnesium, magnesium, calcium, and barium, and they are added to excess dilute sulfuric acid, which will form the greatest volume of.
Hold on. So you have added what carbonates?
Lead, calcium, barium, and magnesium.
Lead, calcium, barium, magnesium. Okay. So and you've added all of them to H2SO4.
Dilute sulfuric acid.
Okay. So
and
the question is?
Which will form the greatest volume of carbon dioxide?
This is such a good question. People pay attention. This is such a good question.
Repeat, please.
So the question is that you have, thank you so much for bringing this to the class, Amita. Lead carbonate, calcium carbonate, barium carbonate, and magnesium carbonate are all reacted with sulfuric acid. Which of these produces the greatest amount of gas? Now we know these are carbonates, right? All of them are carbonates, which means when they react with acid, they're going to give carbon dioxide and water and salt. कौन सा salt होगा? Sulfate वाला salt होगा. So we will get lead sulfate, calcium sulfate, magnesium sulfate, and barium sulfate. Now, which of them Oh, okay, so which of them is odd one out? Look at these four. Tell me, which of them is the odd one out? कोई ऐसी चीज है जो इनमें से कुछ में कॉमन है और दूसरे में नहीं है? What about barium?
It's not in the reactivity series.
It's not in the reactivity series that we have for O levels. So yeah, that's there. But of course, it's in the actual reactivity series, the bigger one. Okay, does anybody remember this? Please call back again. किसको याद नहीं? This was insoluble salts. Lead, calcium, barium are insoluble for sulfates. And silver is insoluble for halogens, chloride, bromide, iodide. And you can see over here, lead, calcium, barium. Tino insoluble hai. So what will happen? When these things react, lead carbonate, you add it to sulfuric acid, the outer layer will form lead sulfate. And because it's insoluble, अंदर जितना भी lead carbonate होगा, it will be covered by that lead sulfate. So it won't react any further. Because you're getting a precipitate will block further reaction. Calcium के साथ भी यही होगा. Calcium sulfate बनेगा, it will block further reaction. Barium sulfate बनेगा, it will block further reaction. Precipitate बन जाएगा. But magnesium sulfate, the moment it's made is soluble, it will go around. So magnesium carbonate will keep on reacting. But जब वो react करता जाएगा, carbon dioxide आती जाएगी. And that is why magnesium is the answer. What an amazing question. Any questions? Okay then, I'll see you in the next class. Allah Hafiz. And happy Ramadan to you all.
Officer.